Hello and welcome to Office Hours. This is our first official LinkedIn Live. My name is Sandy McCarran and my partner here is Mary Beth.
Mary Beth Martirana, and together we are Sapient Advisors. Sandy?
The concept of office hours was something we started during the pandemic. It's a one meeting that had an open agenda to share information rather than having 5 or 6 siloed one-on-ones. It's evolved over time, and many of my friends and colleagues have heard me talk about wanting to do a podcast. So this is the start of that, where I get to be the funny one who asks all the smart people here questions. So that's really the spirit here, that we are going to bring in smart people and get them all in one room and let the ideas fly. So that's the spirit that we're channeling here today. So Mary Beth.
And Sandy is being very humble, because she is definitely another smart person in the room asking smart questions. A little bit more about why we chose office hours. We've been having this discussion amongst ourselves and other people in the industry. There's been all this buzz about AI, and it's causing a lot of chaos and a lack of clarity in the market. And AI is not going away, and it's going to become something that's going to be within the fabric of everything. So how do we create something that endures past all this buzz and hype, and we're not after that, and we really want to get back to basics and talk about products and how to build them the right way, getting back into data strategy. What are the problems people are facing, the pain points and solutions and best practices? We always look for the trends in the future. We've always been on innovative teams, but we got to go bring it back in and look at it a little bit pragmatically. And we want people to get real value and really create something from this and a community that grows. So Sandy?
Yeah. And in 20 years, we don't want to be Radio Shack, right? We will be AI Shack. This is quick intros. So my background is in really agile product delivery, innovation strategy, and really translating ideas into testable products. I kind of live at the intersection of people, process, and possibility. And I've always been the bridge between technologists and businesses and tech. And Mary Beth and I met back at Moody's Analytics. So I'll let her tell her a little bit about your background and we can talk about our origin story.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of meeting Sandy back at Moody's Analytics, and I've worked always in product strategy, in finance, data, and AI for institutional investors and capital markets, building data-driven enterprise solutions. And I was very lucky in my career, and starting 20 years ago, getting to work with machine learning engineers. Little did I know where that was going to lead me today. And everything I always do is really looking at the voice of the customer and the problem, the pain points we want to solve. And that's one of the things that I've wanted to bring to Sapient, and so did Sandy, to bring to other people in other industries. And how could we do that? And it's so important in this day and age of what's going on in the marketplace.
Yeah. So little do we know back in 2018 that this is where our origin story began. I was leading the PMO at the Accelerator, which is a team part of Moody's Analytics. And basically, we had an idea. We had a machine learning team. They were mostly PhDs who were starting to come into the business world and didn't really know how to build out products, but they had a lot of great ideas and a lot of great thoughts about data. I think Mary Beth started by having some conversations with a few of the guys over there, and that turned into our first design sprint. I was workshopping it as a way to accelerate some of the product build that was happening, some of the ideas, and also a way just to really validate concept for a product before you go out and spend $5 million for it. Mary Beth, I think we want to talk a little bit about Project Raven.
Yeah, a little bit. It's always interesting to me, having done product strategy and working in innovation teams. I always tell people to talk to their engineers, and that you get great ideas from them that you never even thought about. And what happened was, I just one day just happened to be hanging out with them, and we started talking, and they were so frustrated. Oh, we got to do all this data labeling and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is that? And they started explaining it to me. And having come from financial services and working in research and working with credit analysts, I go, Do you know that we have hundreds of credit analysts that go through thousands of pages of unstructured documents pulling this data manually? And they were like, "What?" I said, "Do you realize this tool could be used internally or with clients, like what you're talking?" And I could see the thread of where this could go. And so here were these brilliant PhDs, but they didn't really know how to go and take their idea and commercialize it. So that led to us having discussions, and Raven was born out of that. And it was a proof of you need the strategy with smart people in the room from all parts of the organization. And doing some of the techniques that Sandy did, we were able to go something that would have taken 3 years to deliver, we delivered in 5 months.
And
So
so the other critical piece of this was just the people. And all of us were working on other projects. This was not anything that was sanctioned. We all just were very curious. And I think a lot of creativity went into how we were going to get this across the line. So we didn't have a budget or sign off to work on it, but we all did have a lunch hour. So every Friday, we sat in a conference room with our lunch and we worked through a lean canvas and built out the idea. We talked to different subject matter experts. And when we had a team meeting, we actually pitched the idea as part of a group contest and we won. And the prize was for us to do an actual design sprint, which was the first one that was run at Moody's. And it was something that was very successful to the point where the head of one of the data divisions asked us when his team could get a login to the prototype, which I think to me proved everything. It was validated in a week. It was something where we realized that a working prototype can really shortcut months worth of meetings and really show that AI could accelerate not just the insights, but the revenue, and using a data driven process to come up with like a prototype that was really a business case in disguise. So it really forced clarity. And what we didn't know at the time was that was really our origin story for Sapient Advisors.
that is something that we didn't realize till as we came together in this past year, full circle, where that was going to take us in our journey. And so what we want to do with Sapient is we want to take what we've learned and take it into other industries and help them transform themselves, and industries that haven't done these type of things and with this emerging technology, and solve their business problems and turn it into an advantage for them. We're super excited. We are relaunching our website. We've expanded our team, people that we've worked with in our careers on Wall Street, in media, in tech, in real estate. A couple of people that were going to be joining us is going to be Richard Vogel, Chief Data Strategist. More about him later in the episode. And then Pam Parker, ex Google, ex Amazon Alexa, Let's Chat, brilliant with product strategy and machine learning operations. And there's more coming that we will be announcing on the team. And then where that has put us, and what we've always done is we're really end-to-end experts, right? Everything from the beginning to the end, from the idea, the design, the approach, to bring these things around, and always also looking at it very holistically. What we've always say to people, yes, we have a product and a strategy, a business strategy, but how do we support that also with the technology? And then everything comes from that business strategy, and it's the data. So what we need to do to deliver value, it's the data and the AI and the UI equals that value and that experience. And also we want to have these things scale, and we want to do it with integrity and be responsible in the innovations that we deliver.
So our partnership adventure with Avatar Buddy really started when we were accepted into the Emerge Americas SMB Growth Lab, which was started by Melissa Medina, their CEO, as a way to bring a new vision to Emerge Americas that would get small business people to participate. And that's where we met Stephanie and Liz. And we thought it was a perfect partnership. They're fellow female founders solving real problems. It aligned perfectly with our ethos of smart partnerships, shared values and IP, mutual growth, and not a ton of overlap in our company missions. Great partnerships are never just about the technology, it's the people and working together. So it's about trust, vision, alignment. And I think we have all of that with the current company here. So that kind of wraps up our kickoff. And with that, this is what Office Hours is all about, pulling back the curtain sharing what's working, maybe what's not sometimes, and spotlighting the people who are really building out the future. With that, Mary Beth can share more about our session today with Avatar Buddy.
Great, great. I want to thank everyone so much for joining us and taking your time. And I really wanted you to get to know Stephanie and Liz from Avatar Buddy, have them introduce themselves, have them share about how they started Avatar Buddy. As Sandy said, we got to know them more earlier this year, and I'm extremely excited to have them here with us as we kick off office hours. Stephanie, Liz, please introduce yourselves and tell us how you guys got started.
Thank you for having us here today. I think that it's indeed a pleasure and a privilege to be the first guest. I always feel like the inaugural guest is always one that's highly valued, and there's an additional level of trust and intimacy because you're going off and you might make a mistake, and being able to have somebody in your space that won't criticize you or make you feel uncomfortable, I think is key for partnership and when you're launching to get the right support. I started Avatar Buddy in 2016 when I was trying to solve a simple problem, which was how to help people be the best version of themselves. And can we do this with technology since there don't seem to be enough human mentors to go around? And Liz and I worked together before Avatar Buddy back in 2012, 2013, where we turned around the project. And when her daughter was about to go to University of Miami, we reconnected. And I always thought it was a great and fun time to work with Liz, and continues to be fun. It's rare that you find people that you can have deep, intense conversations with and then still end the conversation with a laugh and getting things done really quickly. I feel like she plugs the holes in my logic and complements me in a way that helps amplify my ability to really view the future. And so super excited when Liz decided that she was going to be a co-founder with Avatar Buddy in 2024. And since she's come on, we have definitely turned around and leveled up, and we keep leveling up. And I think the most recent level up was the quickest we've ever done. We did it in 6 weeks. And so just testament to when you have great partnership, how quickly you can go. And just a quick background, I was CIO of the Children's Trust before I started Avatar Buddy. And prior to that, I did corporate IT quality, where people and processes intersect to produce low defect software solution. And I always say low defect because there's no such thing as no defect. We just might not have found the defect as yet.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was a lot of praise. Thank you. And thanks, Mary Beth and Sandy, for having us. So, Stephanie outlined where we came together, but a little bit about my background to fill this out is I have been in the technology space pretty much my whole career. I'm out in the Silicon Valley, the hub of the tech space for the most part, for the last 30 years. And I have been in manufacturing, supply chain management, and in software for the majority of that time. And I like to say that my skill set really is in translating the information that a customer needs. Yeah, I sit at that transition point to make sure that customers and even internal constituents really understand what it is we're trying to do, whether it's with a product or with a service, or how to get the most out of their experience. And so I really work on the operational side and create that operational excellence that allows customers to be successful and to get the most out of what they're doing. So that's where Stephanie and I really came together in in this partnership that we have of trying to get the best out of people with AI, how to elevate them and how to make sure that that people don't get left behind. And how do we do that? So that was a little bit about me.
Great. Could you give us a bit of a high level overview of what problems Avatar Buddy is solving for organizations?
Sure. So Avatar Buddy is a managed AI as a service company. And there are three issues that companies since the beginning of time have been dealing with. One is they have disjointed systems, so the systems are siloed, or employees are forced to put data in multiple places. We all know that data is like a orchid. The more you touch it, the more brittle it becomes. So you don't want to be touching your data too frequently. Secondly, people spend a lot of time on low value tasks. And by the time they're finished with those low value tasks, they don't have enough time for the high value, higher order thinking task. And then you have the constant challenge of that data and skill set walking out the door. As soon as you train somebody to become proficient in their job, they either leave or they get promoted or they retire. And so in 2022, I believe the world or the people in the AI space said, we can solve these problems with AI. And to a certain extent, they're 100% right. But the way they went about doing it, I think, left a lot to be desired. They started using AI like another piece of software and not as a social construct. And so, what we do is we approach our solutions from a position of AI is a social construct. We're supposed to be We need to integrate AI into the existing workforce, and that it can be used as an assistant and amplifier of your existing employees. And a really cool thing about AI is that it's able to amplify what it is that you do 10 to 100x. So if you have a junior employee in about 6 months, that employee with AI could be operating at a mid-level employee. And so that kind of amplification is what really we help companies maximize and be able to get done.
Okay. And Liz, as we got to know each other, and I think we realized that both Sapient Advisors and Avatar Buddy have that same approach of human and AI, like a human in the loop, not a AI replaces the person, and that we have those shared values. How did that shared mission lead you to want to partner with us?
I think it really came down to we were able to communicate to each other equally. And this is really hard sometimes with partnerships where you can get out of sync, and you were after the same goals that we were in that amplification of humans and making sure that we are going about looking at AI and helping businesses understand how to look at AI in the right way. And with both of us being on that same page, it really lends ourselves to being complementary to each other and saying the same message to a potential partner customer of ours, that we're not on different pages of a conversation. So I think that really helps when you build partnerships that have that same mindset.
Cool, cool. Stephanie, could you walk us through some of the core features for Avatar Buddy, such as the tailored buddies, small language models, and digital twin concept?
Sure. So we create function specific AI agents. And what that basically means is that you have a job function that is tedious, takes a lot of time. We can configure the AI to help address and eliminate that. And if our AI cannot do that job, we our AI, because of our AI advisory services, we can help work with you to find an AI solution that would do that job. And
Okay.
then we've also refined the process of a digital twin, where we know that because of a digital twin is digital persona of a human. And what we found is that the digital twins are able to provide about 80% accuracy in input and feedback as if the human was providing it. And it
Mhm.
just gives you more reach. It allows employees to get access to key individuals without continuing to interrupt those key individuals from being able to do their work. And then we also believe that small language model is the future for of AI. And so what we're recommending is that the small language model, you put your data in it. And because your data is in it, you're controlling what data is in your small language model. Then you're able to ensure that the quality, the accuracy of your data, that it doesn't have any biases. And by doing that, you're able to ensure that the AI is answering the information accurately. So we provide those services. And then, as I said, we have an AI advisory support. So on an ongoing basis, we help you with your AI strategy and make sure that you're continuing to move forward. And what I really like about this partnership as well is the fact that data is the most important part of AI. So AI by itself without data is just vaporware. And
Yeah.
so being able to partner with an organization that is has a long history of providing data quality, data support, data strategy to key organizations, not only small organizations, but large enterprise organizations in between, means that we have a trusted partner that we can refer our customers to. We don't have to say to them, go try and figure this out yourself.
Liz, how do you see Sapient Advisors, advisory services integrating with Avatar Buddies technology to deliver a seamless experience for clients?
I think Stephanie talked to quite a bit of that. I think there are times where customers are overwhelmed with their ability to absorb the fast evolution of AI and how their business may or may not be impacted by it. I think every business will be impacted by it. But data in particular is an area that I think customers have focused more on the organization of their data for their BI tools, which is a big process that they've gone through to get data into it, and a lot of it is around financial data, but not necessarily around the kind of data. AI takes broader swaths of data, and it doesn't have to be organized in the same way that you would put it into a business analytics tool. And I from for us, what we need is that data to be clean and to understand its purpose. And customers potentially are gonna have challenges with that because it's not data that they've traditionally looked at as being something that they need to have clean or understand its purpose. And that's where we see a big intersection with you guys, is being able to help customers look at those use cases that they may have and say, okay, is the data the kind of data we would want to use for that use case? Do I have it available? If I don't, what do I need? How do I gather it? Because sometimes it is in people's heads. Stephanie said earlier, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that walks around a company. And though intuitively, as business owners, we know that, we don't understand always the impact when that institutional knowledge is not somewhere where we can access it easier until they walk out the door.
Mary Beth, I know you are always telling me one of the biggest blockers for clients and implementing AI solutions is the data. What would you say are the best practices there for implementing AI and getting your data ready?
I think even before answering that question, I think Liz just said a very good thing is the purpose, right? And it gets into the best practices and the biggest blocker. A lot of clients don't give you the information or the context around the data. So the data that's now going to be putting in, say, these large language models, small language models, Avatar Buddy is using, right? We're using not only structured, but semi-structured and unstructured data. So what is the aboutness? What is the context of this data, right? Where is it used in the organization and how? So people, but then, so that means like, how do I go and tell that so that it's machine readable and they can take it in? So to get to that, it really comes down to going back to what are the use cases? And anytime you work building any product, internal, external, or solution, you have to go back to what is it, what are we doing? What is the purpose? What is the use case? And then you need to go and then look at, it really comes down to, even I say to people just starting with your, when you do your data governance and your data management, okay, defining the data, even data, starting in data definitions. Many people don't even have that. And it can mean different things in the organization. So you may have a field or an item here, and I may have a field here, and they mean two very different things. They could be similar, right? Revenues can be one thing in the sales team, and revenues can be defined differently in the financial or the FP&A team. So I think what you need to do is even just start in the basics of that data management and the data like definitions and what is it about, and then the purpose, the use case that you're going to be using it for. Just starting there will clarify a lot of things in the organization and get alignment between people of what that means. They mean different things than someone like Avatar Buddy. When that comes in, it's going to affect what they're doing to build those buddies and models for those clients.
I think, Mary Beth, we also had uncovered in our adventures that sometimes you have the data. Do you have permission to actually use it in AI? And we uncover some of those type of questions.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we're able to do that's pretty unique, I think, versus anyone is that because it can't come from this like deep data information provider backgrounds and content distribution and huge data businesses, there's a whole thing with even we work with clients about the content and the sourcing of it, right? So what are you going to go collect it yourself? Are you going to source it elsewhere? Do you have permission? What are your permissions to use with that data? How are you going to use it? And then also, as you use it, it's also going to affect your economics, right? Whether it's an internal tool or an external tool. And then it's going to go into whether, and then combining that with proprietary and internal data, the data management, the cleansing, the architecture. And then what I call, okay, the next piece is that all leads to something, that groundwork are needed. And then getting into the monetization, whether it's an internal tool, which amplifies maybe your sales team being a bit smarter with looking up prospects and prospecting for new business, or your marketing team, or it could even be monetizing the data on the back end and making data products or technologies that you can monetize outside your organization.
Very good. So what type of strategies do you see will help clients overcome their resistance to adopting any new AI solutions? I think you hear a lot about what I think is a trust issue, right? That, oh, AI is replacing us or jobs are disappearing. I think famously, Mary Beth and I have this back and forth because she wanted my source on 80 million jobs disappear, but 93 million jobs get created. I think it's the World Economic Forum saying this. So what are we seeing as the opportunities in clients as they're going forward to adopt?
I think that when we're engaging our client, the first thing we do is we explain that agile methodology is the best way to approach when dealing with AI. You need to do short, quick sprints, not drag this out, because it's in the short, quick sprints that you learn the most, and then you can optimize your implementation. And then we talk about your emotional response to the AI. And I find that's like probably the most powerful part of the session, where we just stop and I just point blank say, when you hear AI, what is your emotional reaction? What emotion surfaces for you? And then I just sit there in silence until somebody starts to share. And usually, what ends up happening is that people share in a way that's like cathartic, but also insightful. And then, based on their concerns and their fears, and even their excitement, like, why are you excited about this? Because you want to make sure that we're tempering expectations. This is still on a evolutionary timeline. It's evolved to like what a 3-year-old has evolved to. 3-year-old can walk around, it's cute, he can talk to you a little bit, can do some things, but you can't really just leave the 3-year-old by itself. And that's where I caution. So we still have a lot of evolution to go in this space before we get like solid, fully baked, like the way a mainframe is solid and fully baked, or a web solution is solid, fully baked. And so having those conversations from an emotional standpoint is very key. And then I like to ask the employees what they believe are the problems. I start with them. And then based on what they say, I read the management's response, nonverbal cues, because that's when you really get to understand if there's an alignment with the organization. Because if you don't have an alignment between management and employees, again, the AI implementation is going to blow it up. The thing that I keep saying, and I've said this already, and I'm going to repeat myself, what AI does, AI is like a magnifying glass. If you have something small, you got a little tear on your garment, it might not be a big deal. You could get away with using that garment again. But what AI does is comes along and makes that tear so big that you cannot do anything but not use the garment. And so that's where AI becomes scary, because what it does is it forces you not to hide. You can't hide. The moment you start implementing AI doesn't care. It will tell you what it is. You can argue with it. If it's configured properly, it will hold its course. It'll go back, it'll check, and if it comes back with the same answer, it's gonna hold it. It's not gonna go, no, I'm wrong, let me change. At least our AIs don't do that. It will say, nope, this is what it is, and will hold. And so now that changes your whole engagement, right? Because we have all been in places where people say we have quality data, and then there's always somebody that knows how to tweak the data, and only that person knows how to tweak the data, and you have no insight into it, and you don't know if they're tweaking the data correctly. And so now something happens to that person, you're at the mercy. And those kinds of things, AI will be like, will show you what the problem is.
Yeah.
So I think understanding alignment, understanding emotional response, understanding that AI will magnify whatever problems you have, from especially from a data standpoint, and then understanding that the best way to implement an AI solution is in an agile methodology.
Mhm.
Small, quick sprints. If you're really good, it's a 3 day sprint. If you're not that agile, maybe a 1 week sprint. Anything more than 2 weeks, you're not maximizing AI anymore.
Yeah. I think we've also run into this where we think all those unsexy data cleanup projects that everyone's been putting off are really what is hampering the moving forward. And I would say, just to be fair, some executive education. I think something over 68% of people are using ChatGPT, just by the way, in case anyone thinks that they're not. In case it thinks that they're blocking it, they have phones. But I think just the idea of putting in agents or generative AI, or really putting something that's going to transform the workforce, really it involves everybody from HR, technology, product, sales, CEO, all of them. It's not cutting a check and throwing it over the fence to the CTO anymore. And I think that was one of the origins of how we came together as well. I think you saw a lot of, as a technical founder, you were struggling quite a bit to get the business to open their eyes. So I think it's great to hear that you're moving forward with this stuff. So I would ask also, maybe Liz, you could take this one. What other trends are you now seeing in the marketplace as you're moving into different businesses?
I don't know if it's so much trends. I think it's learnings, probably more is what I'm seeing. Again, because this is revolutionary. This is the thing that happened in the 1900s with the Industrial Revolution, right? So there's a lot of things we don't know, and as Stephanie said, there's this is AI is still growing and evolving, and it's only at the age of a 3-year-old. So there are a lot of things that we're learning about how to make it. I think that one of the things that I had read is computers and programming, we had to adapt as humans to how to program a computer. We had to learn the language of that computer program. So we went and we taught ourselves another language. AI is the reverse of that. AI is we are now making the computer learn us. And so I think there's a lot of, to Stephanie's point, there's a lot of emotions that come up with that, but there's a lot of really powerful things that we can do if we understand what we're doing. And so I think it's just a lot of learnings that people are coming back with, and trying to make sure that we are always focused on the human, and trying to make sure that we're using it for the good of the human as a global thing, and taking each of these sprints, as Stephanie says, because daily think new studies are coming out and new information is coming out, and internalizing that and not being afraid of that change. And I think that's the hard thing. And one of the things I like about this partnership is that we are all women. And I think we bring to tech and to AI in particular, I don't want to say specifically empathy, but I think we do have a unique characteristic as women that allows us to bridge that space that wasn't needed in past tech worlds. Having lived in it my whole life, it there's something unique about AI that requires a subtler touch, the listening that Stephanie talked about, and just asking a question. How do you feel about AI? So I
Yeah.
think women founders and women in the AI space, we add a lot of value from a lot of our innate abilities to do things that maybe weren't needed in past.
Yes, I would say the soft skills, the communication, those are very key. Even your English language skills, writing prompts are becoming more critical than ever. And we have
Mhm.
an intern program going right now. And I think they're asking questions and we're explaining to them, like, this is the Industrial Revolution. You have to learn how to ride a horse and drive a car, right? You have to learn how to code and use ChatGPT or whatever Claude or whatever you want to use for coding, right? You have to learn how to do both because it's why we get value out of the tools that we can use is because of our experience, right? So it's really critical to learn both and do that. I would also ask, what advice, maybe Mary Beth, you could take this one. What advice would you give to organizations who are considering AI driven transformation but are really unsure of where to start?
You know what I would suggest? I always say go back to the problem. Go back to basics, start with the problem, start with the business. It always starts with the problem. Even and part of why I say that is sometimes we have technology chasing the solution. And we need to have the business and the problem and the voice of the customer and the users leading the way. And it's only with that is where you really get into what is needed and required. And also, it's how you get buy in and feedback, and you're able to iterate in the agile and design thinking methodologies that we use. And I think even now, that's even more important with what's going on is using things like the design sprints and things that we do. They're even more important now because they actually bring the whole team together. It gets alignment through them. It also gets all the ideas out there. It is data driven. We get feedback. And then the other thing it does is it really de-risks these projects,
Mhm.
right? Instead of hands on keyboards, right? Before you make that investment, you have battle driven, you've gotten feedback, you've iterated on that, you're much more clear of what you want. And before you've go ahead and you spend $500,000, let's say you spent $20,000 on a design sprint or whatever it may be, or the time, you're better off knowing sooner than later. So that's really where I tell people. Again, I just go back to the beginning, back to basics.
Yeah. I would also just say maybe we could go around and I could ask each of you what, if you could give one resource that is related to AI or buddies or anything that you would want to recommend. It could be a podcast, an article, a thought leader, a book. What, Liz, we could start with you.
I think if you can find trusted resources, and there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of podcasts out there that talk about AI, but I think it's just a matter of keeping yourself open to signing up for the newsletters, for listening to the podcasts, more than it is a specific resource that I use. I try to get a variety of inputs. Dave Burse is someone who I think is really practical, and he comes from a creative background. And I do find that his stuff is accessible, maybe more so than some other more techie type things, because he does come from a more creative perspective. And I think that's the uniqueness about AI is that it requires people to use their creative side, which is something that we've shoved down for most of us. And it's going to be something that we're going to need as we move forward, that critical thinking and that creativity, because that's where the human piece really feeds the AI.
Yeah,
So
that's
Dave Burst is
hard.
probably one of the ones as an introductory, and he's really accessible.
Yeah, hardest part to replace, in my experience so far, is the creativity that humans have.
Yeah.
And Mary Beth, do you want to give the question was, what was your favorite resource that you could recommend? Book, article, podcast, thought leader?
For myself, what I recommend, and it's something very simple for people who are trying to like keep up with everything with AI, and I think he does a great job in breaking it down, is I love the AI Daily Brief by Nathan Whitmore. And every day it's something, it's not just about the technical, but it's about what's happening, what's shaping things. It's even looks at geopolitics, it looks at it from many different angles, and he makes it much easier for people to digest and learn and not be afraid to start to wade into the waters. So that is the one that I tell everybody about. That's like the top of my hit list.
Cool. Stephanie?
So recently there was an article that came out. I don't remember who published it, about Moderno and how they're implementing AI. If you go and you look on my LinkedIn posts, you can find it there. And it was a practical application to AI. And what I found was that it really embraced the concept that AI is a social construct, and the fact that you can't have one AI do everything for you. So the article in summary talks about the fact that Moderna has merged their IT and human resources department together. So that is a acknowledgement that AI is a social construct. It's not human, it's not tech, it's a mashup of
Mm-hmm.
both. At Avatar Buddy, we have a term we've coined a toy called the human digital handshake. We have some cute little graphics around that to just convey that it's going to be a continuum. It's not one over the other, but it's a mashup of both. And then they talked about they had 3,000 agents and counting. And that's important for people to understand, right? Because people think, oh, I'm just going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to ask it all these questions. And then he said, oh, it doesn't work. And it's because you have to create agents. An agent is just a system prompt, and your system prompt has to be very narrowly defined if you want the AI to do what you want, to give you what I call quality responses. It will always respond, but will it give you quality
Mm-hmm.
response? We have a team of interns, and we're training them on the fact that you can't just ask random questions to the AI and expect it to give you
Mm-hmm.
quality stuff. You must ask quality questions. And what is a quality question? It's about talking to the AI the way you would talk to a human. I always see people with all these complex, and I try and do those complex prompting. I never get what I want. And then I just talk to the AI the way I would normally, that the way we're talking right now. And the AI gives me so much better response. Like, hey, I'm an intern. I'm tasked this summer with creating these lists. I don't know for sure what I'm supposed to do. Can you help me figure out how to do it and where to get the information? And then after you told it that, then you say, I'm looking for companies that are in the $5 to $50 million revenue range that could use Avatar Buddy. I'm looking in the manufacturing sector. All of a sudden the AI responds way better to the prompt. And so that's, I think, Moderna's article was a practical application of how people are successfully using AI. And that's what you need. And of course, Moderna has, it talks about the data, talks about the AI agents, and it talks about the merging of their IT and HR department, talks about the resistance that cause, and all of that we've covered, but it's a good summary of what we covered in this conversation. People's responses, data cleanliness, data maturity, function specific AI agents that are finely tuned, and asking questions the way you would talk to a human.
Yeah, I would, just to wrap up our conversation there, I would say my favorite resource is Dave Merwin. He's one of my former colleagues. Been really pioneering using AI practically, and he has a Substack, so you can find him on LinkedIn and sign up for his Substack. So I'm going to give a shout out to Dave Merwin. I have one question that came in from our audience, so I'm going to just ask that after the panel. As women helping shape the future of AI, how do we ensure the systems that we're building reflect diverse perspectives, not just in data, but in design, ethics, and leadership? That's a good one.
What I like to say that women start from a position of empathy. We start from a position of inclusivity, and that we continue to be at Avatar Buddy. We continue to do that. We not only do we have executives that are winding down their career, but we have interns and everybody in between that's informing what we do, how we do it. We like to get feedback. We encourage diversity. And diversity is not just the physical diversity. We're talking about diversity. We're not just asking management what the problem is, we're asking employees as well.
Mhm.
We're being intentional the way we design the solution, the or engagement, so that you ask a few people, then you expand and you give people the opportunity to provide feedback. So it's about doing it every day, all day long. It's not an additional thing that you're doing, it's just how you work.
Great answer. Mary Beth or Liz?
I
Anyone?
think one of the things I think maybe we're a little bit more aware of is where there could be blind spots in the data or holes, right? I think Sandy and I recently had a discussion with some people at an event about, we were talking about how if you just leave a look back years ago, great company like Amazon, where they had their recruiting tool they had developed. And it had been developed and it basically mainly on, no offense to the men in the audience. It was very male oriented profiles, technical. And when they had trained it on that, and then when they went and put it in production, it really was biased to those profiles versus the women, right? So I think you may have a blinder on or a blind spot, and I think women kind of seen those blind spots in our careers or whatnot, and we're a little bit more attuned to that. I think it's just the nature of what we've been through and working in especially technology and whatnot as women. You may have that like sensitivity there. I think the good thing is, so on the flip side of something like that happening, I think it makes people more aware and then maybe more thoughtful. Hey, we need to think about these things in the future. We don't want to see those things happening. But I think it also brings forth conversation and organizations doing something different. So.
Yeah, I would echo both Mary Beth and Stephanie with a little bit of, at the end of the day, we are still users of these AI systems, and you have choices now. It's not just ChatGPT. There's a bunch of them. You can make your voice known that there is a problem, and you should make your voice known if there is a bias that you're seeing in the large language models themselves, because we know they already have them. Okay, so it's already well established that there's some biases out there in some of these large language models. And I think you get to choose which one you want to use. And the more that the voice is known, the more that those companies can take a look at what they're doing. I also think as people move to small language models, it's incumbent as companies that are supporting those, that we talk about those things. Maybe if someone had brought up, why are we only using male resumes to train our HR system, recruiting system, bring it up,
Yeah.
voice it. And that way you can avoid maybe some of these data gaps. Or if you voice it and you realize you have a data gap, then you can pause and you can say, okay, how do we fill that? How do we change that model? So again, I think everyone has to take an active role, whether it's talking about what's happening in your company with your small language data sets, or an active role in the broader ecosystem of AI with the large language models.
Yes. I would say, to just summarize, it's a data gap is going to be a credibility gap if it's unaddressed. So definitely the way to go is to bring it up. I think we're pretty much at time. We're going to use the last 5 minutes just to say thank you to our first guests, Stephanie and Liz. Thank you to everyone who joined. This is a great conversation, great questions, and great discussion. If anyone has suggested topics going forward or guests they'd like to hear from, we want to keep this going, so please let us know. And I think, Mary Beth, you're going to fill us in on what our next episode of Office Hours will be about.
Yes. Before I talk about the next episode, I'm just going to ask Christine to drop in the comments, the link to the next episode. I also want to thank Christine for supporting us throughout our first episode and making this happen. And also with our interns who have been wonderful, helping Christine make this a reality. With further ado, the next episode actually is, I think I gave a little foreshadowing earlier in the hour, is going to be with Richard Vogel. And it's all about it's not about the AI, it's about the data, which is the transformation engine to your organization. And Richard comes from a legal and banking background, having worked with large content collection, data collection teams, organizations such as B of A, JP Morgan, Moody's, so forth and so on, managing these teams in India, the Philippines, Costa Rica, working with machine learning engineers of how to get the information from these unstructured documents, particularly, and building large commercial databases with thousands of entities, thousands of data items, and then making that into a productized commercial database that is then used by users for these companies. He's done it numerous times. He is extremely thoughtful about one of the things Richard's really been delving into, which I can't wait to talk to him about, is how do we make and treat data as a strategic asset in organizations? And it's been a really difficult thing for many years. And now more than ever, it has to be. But how do we go and make that happen? It's still not there. And what do we need to push that forward? I think this time is our next one. Anyone who's a business leader exploring AI and how to bring it into your organization, how to build products, tech, any heads of data analytics and digital transformation, it's definitely a great session for you. Also, in the meantime, we definitely want to take your feedback, just like everything in product that we do and everything we do here at Sapient is we want your feedback. What do you want to hear about? What would you like to hear from Richard? Also, other speakers, other topics. And we're really looking forward to another great show. And again, Liz and Stephanie, thank you for taking this time with us. Thank you to our audience. You've given us an hour of your time, and that your time is meaningful. And we also are looking forward to growing this community. And thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate being your first guest.
Thank you for the privilege and honor.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.